Here's a funny thing. Just while we're getting around, a certain cat, I won't mention Frank's name, because a certain biped, I won't mention my name, thought it would be cute to say, hey, Frank, it's a modular cable. You can play with it. So now Frank is trying to crawl up the front of my modular synth because it's covered in cables. Good one, Carl. Don't blame Frank. Frank, stop. This is Art of Rock. It's turning into Art of Frank. Is there an Art to Frank? Gee, I don't know. Every Saturday morning we are here. Come and join us. And first and foremost, I want to acknowledge the Tongva people as being the traditional landowners of the land that I am standing on, and I thank them for their resilience and their survival. Tongva, you rock. Every Saturday we're here. Watch it on Zoom or Twitch or wherever, or not Zoom because that's where we are, or on Instagram. Jesus Christ, Frank! Yes, I'm not. You can't go back there.
I think what he meant is sign up and watch on. Go ahead, thanks.
Thanks. I know, but you're so cute. Back of a modular synthesizer where the cat doesn't belong. Yeah, join us on Twitch because it's awesome. It's the place to be. Thank you for that, Rezi. This is made possible with Angelspit's Patreon and Frank. And I will say having a cat's bloody fantastic. That's the Patreon. Go join it. You fucking keep me going, and I want to keep you going, and thank you so much. So please join us. Ice Planet 9000's new album is out. 80 minutes of music. Do yourself a favor. Sounding like Molly Meldrum there. Go listen to it. It's great. It's on Bandcamp. Stream it or something. If you want to hear more music, there's the Industrial Incisions playlist. Some of the bands here are on it. Other old school bands are on it. Please go listen. And if you find a band you like, listen to them and follow them. Because I'm telling you, man, we can all do with the streams. And if you want more non-stop music from the bleeding edge, MTV TV, they are amazing. Please jump on MTV TV, and it's fucking awesome. They also have a Patreon. And their Patreon is here. And I don't know what Frank is doing right now. Support them on Patreon because it ain't cheap keeping a 24-hour non-stop dark alternative music show going. And once we're finished today, we're going to zoom on over to MTV TV. And if you have if you do a Zoom, a stream or something, please always raid back to MTV TV. Because we've got to keep it going. Okay, I have a question. How do you run a listening party? Because I've never run one. Go.
May I?
Please.
I literally just set it up, and I've done 3 or 4 through Bandcamp, and it's all pretty automatic. I mean, it's all pretty. You just set up the date, write a little blurb about it, and they and then they you send it out. You can invite people, whatever, and then at the ascribed time, the music. Your release starts playing, and I have sort of personally I have like a couple ideas of what I want to sort of talk about. The one I did yesterday was really a lot of fun, and I basically said, okay, guys, you're going to learn a lot of inside baseball and the sausage making in this, so to speak, sort of like behind the scenes, and I talked a little bit about what the songs meant to me. The EP, by the way, is Imperfect Vessel by Cathode Ray Tube on Condition Human Recordings. I talked about making the album. I talked about some ideas behind like what I thought it would sound like. And it was really, I would say, maybe 50% of it was me talking, but the other 50 was like others. Okay, 60% me. But people were reacting positively to it, which is great. I've done them before, and I've had one person show up, and that was a great experience as well. Because especially I think, as I said earlier, the guy was from Melbourne, and I think he'd just woken up. So it was, it was like 8 in the morning or something for him. But anyway, you just run it, and it's a great way to chat with people. Also, you get to see kind of like with YouTube and Twitch streams, you get to see if people purchase the album right then and there. And that was great. Some people actually did right there purely because of what was playing and what I was saying, which is like, I mean, that's basically like it, isn't it? And it was so easy and so much fun. And I've gone to other people's and had a really great experience of like, yeah, getting to know like that artist and that music. It's like anything else. It's like getting the horse to the water. But it's however long the recording is, and you get to have that time. So I really enjoy them. And like Razi said earlier, we were talking. I sold 5 or 6 albums. Oh no, 2 or 3 during the conversation. But like any sales is sales, and reaching anybody is just as impactful. Reaching one person is just as impactful as reaching 8,000. I'll say the last thing on this. Peter Hook, in his fantastic autobiography, says, I will play for 8 people or 80,000. I don't care. Whoever shows up, I'm there to do it. And, if a guy like that, who's, the pinnacle, can do it, then little old me can stick around from one guy, and talk about our favorite coffee drinks or something. So.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Rezi, talk to me.
I'm glad you brought this one up. Well, Chang kind of broached it, and then you made it into a topic. I had a couple of thoughts also in just things musicians do on Twitch, and there's kind of a breadth to that I don't know if anybody wants to weigh in on, but I kind of thought, since I'm going to be doing it and embarking on it, that having it as kind of a topic. Yeah. So the idea of a listening party, just to make it a little bit looser, like one of the most engaging things that I've done is just having a relationship with MTV TV, for example. Like when they're featuring your video, or you've got something else to offer on there, or you're in the chat, there's a really good chance that their generosity of posting your links to retail and stuff and playing the songs in their rotation, it's a community-based small sliver of listening party, but it is listening party because you're there, people who are listening are there, hosts are there, and the music is being played. And it's a really good small example of like, hey, maybe it's only one track, maybe you get featured because you're you've got enough material. But that kind of experience leads to people follow, subscribe, buy, engage, be with you, talk to them, ask questions. And like Chang said, that's a lot of fronts of valuable and rewarding. As far as other things to do on Twitch with your own channel, I've seen, like, I guess maybe 4 categories of musicians, 2 of which are sort of relevant to what we do. And they're like, either spending time with your track outs and your project files and talking about the stuff, even if nobody fucking asked. And another category is creating music on the fly, like doing producer stuff. Both of those are skills you probably have to build up to be interesting, and you may have 0 viewers to 1 viewer for a couple hours of doing it. But that's like a full-time listening party. Like, repeat, do it all the time, or do it as much as you possibly can. Use it as promo, use it as community engagement, use it as something that you enjoy doing. My little plan here is for an actual, more like a Twitch live streaming listening party concept, is announce the link on the socials with either story and Instagram with the actual link to the thing, then have a playlist that you set up of the things that you're listening to and referencing, and make sure that that's piped into your OBS or your streaming software to get to Twitch, and then do something. Some musicians are just gaming over their playlists and chatting, and some are playing the waveforms on screen of the music that they're listening to. And And then again, like I said, some are doing the breakdowns or the project files and having those be what they're playing. So if anybody wants to talk about it, you can solo stuff and talk about the history of the thing, and maybe you've got your alternate takes in there and stuff. But I'm kind of excited about doing those things. And I say all that, if it's not obvious to people who are avid Twitch streamers, as a neophyte, even though I've had an account for a long time, I've only turned it on a couple of times to just be like, hey, I'm here. So I plan on exploring that quite a bit coming up. Thank you. That is all.
Thank you. That was lovely. Diana, I'd love to hear from you if you want to talk. Or someone, because I've always wanted to do this. Hold on, give me a minute. I've always wanted to do this, but my fear is that people just won't watch. And they'll find it boring because I prattle too much. I don't know. That's interesting. I see. Yes. Yes, Razi. What I want to do is I actually want to throw this to Ivan. Then I'm going to, but Razi, go. Because I feel
real
like
quick one. It doesn't matter. There's a very low bar to, first of all, and a gulf between what you consider really boring and what people are like tuning in for a few minutes at a time and then dropping off and coming back for. There is a range, and people of the millions and millions that are on there may or may not find you engaging for a few minutes at a time and just drop in and come up and leave. It's fine.
Excellent. This is good. Ivan, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
When it comes to Twitch, I mean, particularly Twitch, just make something bad. Just make something. Good, bad, doesn't matter. Just make something. The early days of Twitch, so like this would have been like, geez, 2017. No, yeah, back in 17. When I was still living in Seattle, I was playing a lot of Elite Dangerous, like a lot, like building my own controllers, kind of a lot, and listening to a lot of, Slavic pop. I'm not picky about which country, just as long as it's fun, and the videos are good. And I discovered Twitch, and I started just streaming really long gaming sessions of me flying my ship out to Sagittarius A, the big black hole in the center of the universe, which, like, it takes like 2 months of playing to get there, and it is just boring, but like, put on some good music, you fly, and weirdly enough, people were watching. Like, apparently, like, somehow the just tediousness of it was fun. And I had a good time, and they were having a good time. Everybody was having a good time. It was good. And then I made the mistake of playing on the live server inside the area where other players were, and somebody was using the Twitch stream to figure out where I was so they could attack me. Things happened and lessons were learned. But it was it was kind of fun, and it worked. I suddenly thinking to myself, this is something I can do with my own music, and like that could be an enjoyable experience. Doesn't have to be the highest production quality. It just needs to, like, music needs to sound good, and the gameplay needs to be somewhat engaging. It's not that hard.
Thank you. Thank you, Ivan. Chris, I do still see your hand. I just want to hear from Diana first, then I'm going to throw it to you. Diana, we are all ears.
So we've had, sorry, I'm trying to lower my hand there. Everything on MTV TV is pre-production, except for one time we did have a listening party with Death Dance, which is the Give Take Records label. And that was technically, it was like a live, and then we had the music video and talking about it during the show. that was well attended. I really enjoyed that, but most of the time, MTV TV is the pre-production. However, I have joined in on Bandcamp listening parties, and the ones I've attended have gone really well. We'll have record labels come in and listen a little bit. You'll have just people I've known on Twitch that I see their username, same username over on the Bandcamp listening party. I enjoy them. They've gone well. I should say the quality has gone up for live as well on Bandcamp, because Bandcamp has an option for live as well. So I watched a few live streams on Bandcamp, and the quality has gone up because in trial and error, and they've worked on it. So I have for a listening party, I go to Bandcamp. I think that's where it is at the moment. I also have seen some over on the Discord, actually. Discord is another option. But I really haven't delved into Discord at the moment, but I think Discord is another option. That's all.
This is amazing. Hey, look, if I may ask, and Chang, you may want to answer this question as I throw it to you. Do you need to have a special Bandcamp account, or can you just have a listening party? Over to you, Chang.
To the best of my knowledge, no, you just need to have a release and you can just do a listening party. I've been to some for like bigger labels, like something off of Mute. I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was a Leafcutter John release. And for a friend's label. But it is amazing, just like the length and breadth of stuff that's there. To echo what Ivan said, it's just, and even Razi, just putting up anything. I can't remember who it was now, but I watched some guys. I tend to find single songs and get obsessed with them. This guy, I can't remember what it was, but he was in his undershirt in front of his rig, like breaking down the song in Pro Tools in fairly technical terms. And it was, I don't know how much it was seen in real time, but when I was watching it, there was a lot of views. And I think, it's like anything. It's just sort of, you put your music, you put it out there and see what happens. I'm looking forward to doing streams, hopefully by the end of the summer. And also, both for music, but my Twitch handle is Mediocre Gamer. So I plan to be doing some bad playthroughs of games, but I just think it's that it's a bit of that thing, you just throw it out there and see what happens. And I just remembered now, is it Diana? Yeah, thank you for reminding me of the Bandcamp live live option, because that's a great one too. And I listened to an interview yesterday with the filmmaker Kevin Smith, and someone was asking him about it was the interviewer was the Michael Rosenbaum podcast, and we're all roughly in the same age in our late 40s, 50s, and they were saying, back in the day there were, in the States at least 3 channels, and maybe a bunch of UHF stations, and now there's streaming platforms all over. He asked Kevin Smith, he said, "Is that bad?" And Kevin Smith's like, "No, I actually like it." And I was a little surprised because, this is a Hollywood filmmaker. But what he was saying was essentially, there's so much out there and so many people producing stuff because we now have a TV studio in our bedroom. Well, some of us had it way before, but then the cops showed up. Another story for another time. But we now have that through the laptop, and we can do these amazing things. And yeah, I feel like, as much as there's so many artists we know and friends, people who have never seen the recognition they deserve, there's weird ways people get recognition through these numerous little platforms. And I guess part of it is like, how much energy are you able to devote to getting it out there? I hope that made sense and that I passed the audition.
Good job, thank you. So when you go into Bandcamp, do you enter a special platform way of doing it? Is it a special screen? Is it something different? Is it going chat to people here and push play on the song here?
When two people love each other very much, they come together and sorry, different Bandcamp. No, seriously, it's just literally, it's so easy. You set up, you're the artist, and then you set up the release. And in the release, there's a list there where it says, do you want to have a listening party? And then it has a link to set it up, but it also has one for help. I find, Diana talked about Discord, like I don't understand Discord. So one day I had to sit there all day and just start to understand it. And it started to make sense. But Bandcamp is remarkably easy and quick. And you can just set up the release. You can set up so many great things like merch. I sell my comics through there, but really, yeah, the listening party is just a great way in live time to make contact with people and just get it out, sort of exhibit yourself, if that makes sense. And a really good experience. And I'm sure it's the same way on other platforms and stuff. I've been with Bandcamp. I mean, ever since I started buying like friends' music from there, I've just stuck with it because it's been so great. And thankfully it's remained so.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Razi, tell me more.
I'm not sure I can get to a point here, but I'll do my best. There's a bit of a trick to getting your head around Twitch if you're at all, or live streaming, I should say, if you're resistant to it and wondering like what you have to offer. And two ways of approaching it are, if you've got a thing that soaks up a lot of time, that's probably a candidate. And the difference between like what you think might be interesting as a long format entertainment piece with a narrative arc and what you're doing as a process are very, very different. And there's a lot of process oriented, personality oriented stuff out there that goes back to the roots of what live streaming came from, like, a person with a thing doing their stuff, not necessarily doing anything exciting all the time. But one of the things that I find I've noticed coalescing is there's a lot of neurodiversity going on with Twitch and people's interest areas and what makes them want to tune into something. And everybody's got a different, like thing that they want to have stimulus coming out of their phones and screens and stuff. And if you can offer something that maybe a lot of people are doing, but you're doing it with your personality, even if it's being quiet most of the time, and you're doing it with your material. And I want to push back a little bit, Ivan, on doing bad, because I don't think putting that as your main goal necessarily is helpful. I think what you're saying about giving yourself permission to be bad is super important, because a little bit of high wire act might be your thing. Like, I'm trying some stuff in public and there are 3 people tuned in right now witnessing it, and they will forever remember that bad note, embarrassing mistake. So yeah, maybe I got out what I was thinking on that. Actually, it brought it to a point. I hope so.
This is very interesting. Thank you. Can somebody just do me a favor, jump onto Instagram? I'm trying to stream on Angelspit's Instagram and the screen has currently gone black. It might be my computer for jamming, I'm not sure, but if someone could let me know. This is really interesting because it also bleeds into the idea of other alternative, good, thank you. Of alternative social medias. And we were talking about, Cheng, you were talking about one before, which we might just very briefly touch on. The good thing about like using I'm sorry, Bandcamp is a form of social media, is that you're talking to people who are they're buyers. And you go on Bandcamp to buy stuff. You know, it's try before you buy time. You go there to window shop, and it's, if you like it, you buy it, which is an incredible, powerful thing about Bandcamp. Shane, did you want to tell me more about that new place you found and the new?
Oh yeah, well, it's I mean, I'm over on Mastodon a lot, and it's just it's you know, it's a good solid environment. I'm still learning about it and still finding people there, but it's a good solid environment just for people who want to get away from the noise of of Twitter basically and others. I found it, you know, when there was a big, like last year or so, when there was a big um, exodus from Twitter. There was people going to numerous other places, and I tried like Blue Sky or even Threads, and I didn't feel comfortable with where they were at. And just Mastodon seems like it's really quiet, and there's you know, more room for people to be A, who they are, and B, not be harassed for it. But I wanted to just say something on what Razi said about I can't remember now, but it triggered a memory, you know, something in me just remembering. And I know this is a hot button topic, so I will try to keep it you know, contained. But you know, AI, a lot of artists are legitimately concerned that machine learning is being used to take their work without their permission. For the record, you know, I have to love technology given how I'm talking to you and all the stuff I have behind me. I have deep concerns about the fact about how AI is used to, what they're using to train the AI, which is essentially, you know, our hard work and material. That said, a lot of people are leaving Instagram and Meta because they're really shaky, to put it nicely, on original content and the rights for it. And so there's a site like Kara, which is a lot of people are going to for that. I guess my point being is that, you know, like Razi said, you find people doing anything and everything. I have artist friends who do, they just do live streams where they're just drawing or inking their work and talking about it. And it just so many great opportunities. You know, I guess if I had to say anything, it's like, and I'm still learning this stuff. I mean, I'm not a young guy, but I'm also, you know, I'm picking up a lot of new things, and it's just so amazing to me to do this. Because back in the day, I mean, Razi and we go way back, and what was it? It was like you went to Kinko's, you printed up the cassette labels, and you cut them out, you know, or maybe you knew a friend who knew in the print store you could do something. You know, it was like you had to do a lot more footwork to be heard above the fray. Now the fray is like incalculably huge because it's the world over, but it's still, you will still find people, and people will still hear you. On the site I was mentioning was Kara. It was a C as in Charlie, ARA. And back to Carl with weather.
Reminds me of a Tool song. Thank you very much. So oh look, there it is. I'm just checking some things here. No, it's really interesting. I'm always curious to find new places that are. Hold on a minute.
Kara's in the process of exploding this past 3 weeks or so that's like a place to be.
What's in the process of exploding?
Kara.app, CARA.app.
All right, cool. Tell me about that. Oh, hold on. And then we're going to go to Diana. But
I mean, just very briefly, a lot of artists are putting their stuff up there because they are not training AIs with your work, and you have some control over what you do with it. And also they offer a glazing tool so that it'll spoil it for AI training and stuff like that. So there's a certain angle that they have to community-based art portfolio and social sharing. It's pretty cool.
Well, thank you. Forgive me, I'm looking at all these things as we talk. Diana, talk to me.
Okay, I have a question in terms of uh, your time and your energy. How many sites is it worth to have to use on social media in terms of then using your time? Like, I know you can use an aggregator, however, like, you want to have different things, different posts on different sites to keep engagement on all of the, like, how much is it worth your time to now add like Blue Sky and Mastodon and then use Kara for this? And like, how much of your energy do you expend to have even more social media?
I think that is the most fantastic conversation that we're about to get into. It's funny because one of the things on my things that I wanted to talk about today was dealing with depression, and this topic definitely gets us depressed. I'm going to be shooting my mouth off before you are, Chris. But first, here's resolution.
I'm going to give the wrong answer, and that is exactly the number that you feel some pleasure out of, some enjoyment out of, or some results from. And that could be 1, it could be 5. And if you have friends on 3 of them, start there. And if you have business relationships on 5 of them, start there. But until you reach a threshold where you've got a manager telling you what to post and when, and maybe a design team creating the posts for you, you have to be invested. And you can only put as much investment as your energy and mental health allow for. Otherwise, it's counterproductive and you're ruining the whole purpose of being there and you kill the art. So 1 place, 2 places, I don't know, Instagram and your personal SMS chat, and that's it. Maybe it could happen. Maybe there's more, and maybe you get energized and find some relationships that really carry you through on other places, and you add in a couple of Discord servers and Twitch, and then maybe 1 more, and you find that you do a thing for 2 hours a day that's patching samples into your Mangler rack, and you do it every day, and there's people that are interested in that, so you add that. So, but it's like an organic and very personal decision to be made. The wrong answer, but it's the one that keeps you maybe alive and sane.
Thank you. Actually, I'd love to hear what you have to say, Chris. So I'm going to throw it to you. I'm going to be right back. By the way, I'm listening. I'm dealing with a cat issue, so cover me for a few seconds. Chris, take it away, darling.
Echoing on what Razi said, it is really finding what you're comfortable with. I used to own my own business, and I had to do a lot of self-promotion. And, if I could go back in time, I would say to myself, first, lower your expectations, and not like diminish them and not be like you're screwed, don't even bother, but just manage your expectations. That's the word, not lower, but manage. Really look at them. But what Razi said is like, what are you comfortable with, and how much are you willing to put out there? I go through this almost every Bandcamp. I am, incredibly anxious person who deals with depression on a regular daily level. And I'm like, why bother? It doesn't matter. No one cares. But then I discover, when I make the effort, actually some people do. And I do have a good set of core people who buy my stuff and like it, which is wonderful. One thing, Diana, you reminded me of is for Bandcamp releases, because Bandcamp allows you to generate free download codes so you can hand it out for free to people. I do this for every release of mine, at least 200 codes. A lot of them go to friends, and a lot go to the sites that are like free music or get Bandcamp codes here. There's a lot of great stuff. A friend of mine just sent me to one yesterday. And it's like, and some of them are absolutely free. There are still some good ones on Twitter. There's some good ones on Mastodon. I'm sure there's some on Blue Sky and Threads, but it's a great way to get your music into people's hands that you might not otherwise. And yeah, I think in the managing of your expectations, it's like, you know how much energy you can expend on getting it out there, and understanding that that amount of energy is usually going to be, it's on a good day if it's rewarded equally, but it might be a little lower. But this life and this thing of music that we do, it is not a sprint, it is a marathon. And I think a lot about, Elvis Costello famously said, the world gives you 20 something years to make your first album and 1 or 2 to make your second, meaning you're expected to churn out a lot of stuff. And that was, 40 years ago, before there was anything that we have now. But I guess, my point being that, like, there's a lot of stuff out there that can help you make your job easier. That some of the stuff that, like Razi said before, you're big enough to need a manager, you can do. And it's, it's a question of, like, it's a question of managing your energy and your expectations. I hope that was all clear and coherent.
Thank you for your coherency. This is my thoughts on it. That it's like different areas of town, and you're running around with posters, and you staple them to different posts and walls and stuff in different areas of town. And my thought on it is that because for me, I think everything still comes back to original rock and roll promotion. Like absolutely everything you can go, well, if this is 1984, how would we be promoting this? Because every time I test this, Brett, welcome. Every time I got my data chips, by the way. Thank you very much for my RAM chips. Every time I test that, it seems to come back with all forms of promotion, getting to talk to people, because you are ultimately talking to humans, and it's still the same dissemination of information. My way of thinking about it, if you have a product, a gig, a show, or something, there is one poster, and that poster gets stuck on the wall in this suburb, this suburb, this suburb, and this suburb. Same poster. If I have a post for social media, I will make one post, one playlist. I don't be exclusive. I don't have the time. I'm going to go on a rant in a minute. I just couldn't be fucked. My way of thinking about it is that because I believe the average amount of time that people spend on the internet now, social media, is now 7 hours a day. 7 fucking hours a day. That you are getting into consumerist territory, where they don't give a shit, you don't give a shit, no one gives a shit. And if you have one strong fucking thing, it's better than 5 things that may or may not be strong. But then again, if you do 5 things and you see what sticks to the wall, then you take whichever one was strongest, and that's the one you develop and push. My thoughts about rock and roll, because there's no hands, so I'm going to have a rant. It's like Dungeons and Dragons. Stop me if you've heard this one before. Or is it stop me, stop me, stop me? Anyway, so in the game of rock and roll instead of Dungeons and Dragons, you get 20 give a fuck points when you start. And what happens is that as you progress and you write your first song, that's +1 give a fuck point. Good job. You're up to 21, give a fuck points. Then you meet a bunch of people and you form a band, and that alone is +5 give a fuck points. Then you make this amazing fucking song, another +5 give a fuck points. I think we're up to 31 or something. Then you play some gigs, you go on tour, a song gets picked up and you're on a national tour. Oh my God, all of this stuff happens in the first 2 years. Funny about that. Anyway, so now you're up to 50 give a fuck points. And then suddenly after one of the shows, this dude comes up to you who's an A&R and he goes, oh my God, I love your fucking band. You guys are great. I want to sign you guys. Instantly 50 give a fuck points. Oh, life's so good right now. You're on 100 give a fuck points. That's great. And then he puts you on this huge fucking tour with this huge other band, and there's videos and everything. And oh my God, it's fantastic. And you're only 26 and you're up to 200 give a fuck points, and shit is so good right now. But then something crap happens. Your bass player discovers heroin. So unfortunately, everybody in the band's going to now lose 50 give a fuck points. So that's down to 150. And unfortunately, the bass player is a really good friend. So you're not going to throw the bass player away. You're going to hold on to that bass player because you love them and they're your friend and they've been your friend for such a long time. You think you know where this is going, but you don't. So then something awful happens as well, called your second album. And it doesn't turn out as well as you could. And suddenly the record label guy who you thought was your fucking friend suddenly just doesn't give a shit about you anymore. And that huge push didn't happen. You've just lost another 50 give a fuck points, but it's okay because you're now at 100 give a fuck points. Things progress, you lose lovers, opportunities fails, and before you know it, you're down to 1 or 2 give a fuck points, and you basically just don't give a fuck anymore. The moral of the story is that you have to be really careful about the fucks that you give, because give a fuck points are limited. They don't top up with drugs, people, or coffee. They come really ultimately from within you and the opportunities that you create and you take a risk at actually doing. And in this brave new apocalyptic dystopian swage of internet, swage kind of made that word up, but you'll notice that the give a fuck points just seem to etch away. They just seep away, because the problem, what's really fascinating, here's another rant. So I've been in the internet for a while now, and I remember when the first internet bubble burst, it was because companies were spending a lot of money to create a website, which was crap, for something that didn't actually yield. So the bottom truth is, if return on investment equals crap, but you have to have it, equals bubble burst. So the first internet bubble burst in the late 90s, arguably mid-90s, where extremely absorbent websites really weren't doing anything because they were just really colorful brochures, and that was about it. Then the next one burst because we all did the same thing once again, but we thought something cool was going to happen with streaming and blah, 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 but real audio, but it didn't happen again. Then there was another one, and I'm not even going to go into that one. Now we're on the fourth wave of fuckery. And the wonderful thing about this fourth wave of fuckery is that instead of large corporations holding the accountability, the financial accountability for the bubble bursting, now it's you and me, because we are content generators who are doing this shit for free. We are not getting any money back or any other form of income from the content that we are creating. Really, we're not. So that if any bubble bursts, it doesn't really matter, because billions of tiny little bubbles are bursting every day. That creates the illusion of one big bubble, and all of those other bubbles want to be on TikTok or whatever the fuck, doing their cool little dance, because that's what you're up against. Or a cat. So, and then suddenly you hear the sound of the world being leached of all of its give a fuck points. Just know that you are the bubble that is bursting in the economy in this new fucking bullshit. Just know that your work and your toil is ultimately the property of somebody else's. Why am I even fucking saying this to you? Because you already know. The bubble is always bursting, but large corporations don't take any form of financial responsibility anymore because they've moved it onto us. I'm still wrapping my head around that. I'm really, and then they say, don't be evil. That's the part that really cracks me up. Anyway, so the moral of the story is, expend as little as you possibly can with it being relatively good quality. Because another question I asked is this massive amount of, thank you, Adam, I see what you're saying, but it will never happen. It will never happen because I just don't have the time, darling. I think we need to organize a thing where all the artists turn up and we drink fucking pina coladas. That's what I think. And they can be virgin pina coladas. That's fucking fine. I think what needs to be happening is that you need to focus on your content, because content is king. I don't know if we're allowed to say king anymore, but it is the pinnacle. It is the apex of all things. The songs that you create, please remember that do not fucking write fucking songs that are specifically for EDM, blah, 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 all of this bullshit, marketplaces, mastering, or fucking TikTok or Instagram or whatever the wank is, all the algorithm. If you do that, you are fucking destroying yourself. A good song will last a long fucking time. It will last because humans ultimately want good content that fucking touches their emotions, that address them in the pit of shit that all of us are currently swimming around in, going, what the fuck is going on? And then you release a song going, what the fuck is going on? And everybody goes, wow, I really relate to that. And I'm not being sarcastic. They do. People want real, genuine connection. And if it's in your flyers, if it's in your Bandcamp things, that's one of the reasons I'm always like, I don't do videos anymore, because I don't want to just bang something together. I want to create something that people go, wow, that was fucking cool. We were talking about The Endless and the other movie, that two movies that are on Tubi right now, that zero budget, but they're brilliant fucking ideas. And I'm finding it difficult being in this situation where there is constant expectation to just be churning out fucking crap so someone can swipe past it. And in doing so, I feel like I am cutting down on the value of my art. And that's really difficult for me. Like Angelspit just released, like, Crunk House is now 20 years old, 18 years old. I think Nurse Grenades turns 20 this year. The amount of work that was in that album, like, I will say that new albums musically, conceptually, and everything else are better, because I am a better composer. But it's really interesting. Like, I made this post about, sorry, am I boring you? I made this post this week about how it's really interesting that when people say, I like your old stuff better than your new stuff, what they're really saying is, I like the way that you made me feel 20 years ago, and I want you to make me feel like I did 20 years ago. I want you to make me feel like I'm 20 years younger. And I actually think that's fantastic for a person to say that to you, because they're saying, I believe you can do it. And I absolutely know in the power of music, because let me fucking tell you, music will make you feel 20 years younger. It will. The trick is writing a song that's going to make that. I don't know how to do that, because as you can tell, I'm quite a jaded 50-something-year-old fucker right now, with a cat. Yeah. And the thing about, like, you know, Crunk House was created in a time that was completely different. Jesus Christ, look at the lyrics. I'll be thrown in jail. We had to put a sticker. Remember the stickers that you used to put on CDs once? That was fun. But everything about the photo shoots, all of that, like the economy of that where Angelspit existed at that time in Sydney, where you could very easily pull together a bunch of people and say, I'm going to feed you beer and pizza, and we are going to create an incredible piece of fucking art over the weekend, and you're going to be working 15, 17-hour days. And you're not really going to get anything out of it except a bunch of really cool shots and beer and pizza. Them days are gone, because there's nowhere even those you can't do that anymore. Like, really, in a modern situation in Los Angeles, look at the Crunk House photo shoot and you tell me how much money it would cost you to shoot that on a Hasselblad with film with one of the country's best photographers. Helen White, who shot that, is one of Australia's best fucking photographers. She shoots for Vogue, for fuck's sake. And she did us one hell of a deal. So you're going to make that album now, today, in Los Angeles. You're going to do that photo shoot. Please. How does that happen? Rant. I don't know how it happens, but I'm going to fucking find out, and I'm going to goddamn do it again. Charles, talk to me, darling.
Thank you for that rant. That was fantastic. As I was saying earlier about, about AI, and I was noting here, the CEO of Spotify, saying that, music can be made for almost nothing now, and the cost down. And it's like, it's the type of thing when someone says to you, it's just sort of like, you just want to have a knee-jerk reaction to just slapping them. And your rant brought up so much more for me, Carl, but I can distill it down in just a few minutes. Like, I think we're in this amazing time of an immense, on one hand, democratization of how we get our message, our music out there, with all the opportunities that are on the internet in terms of the streaming platforms, distribution, social media, stuff like that. Like I put stuff on TikTok. I don't even bother with it though, because it just doesn't resonate with me. But I used to put a ton of stuff on Instagram. Now I'm not, because of their position on AI. What you're saying about the cost of a photo shoot, and like what that photo shoot is with in the midst of like the whole budget. Like this, artists will regularly say, you used to get up until the 90s, bands were allowed 2-3 albums to like develop their sound and grow. That doesn't happen anymore. And I think a large part of it is the powers that be, the bean counters and the folks who own it. And I know very little about the music business, only what I've read of, the late great Albini's rant and stuff. But the powers that be want to give as little money as possible to anybody else but themselves. And AI presents a wonderful opportunity to make music for free and give it to people for free for a price and get it back. It's up to us, the musician now in this point, to find that way to get ourselves heard above it, and beyond that. I think we're going to hit a point. I want to believe we're going to hit a point where there's a backlash against AI, and like this type of thing will be, humans making music for humans and stuff. And obviously, I have no problem with technology. We'll be getting back to that, but right now we're in this really shitty period of it, where people are pushing this half-baked technology down the throats of people. And I think a lot of it, I had a falling out with a friend because I said, who works regularly with folks in the 1% in a different capacity. I said, the people who pay for your art are the people who want to destroy all art. And like, how do you not see that like AI is doing that? And your work is being taken for that. So I think and to get just briefly back to what Carl was saying, it's like you put out the energy, use your energy, what you have to make your music, but also put it out there and hope, really it's like you do the work and hope something, sticks to the wall, so to speak.
Thank you. Do not despair. Surrealism is here. Or was the quote actually, young artists of the world do not commit suicide, surrealism is here. So I will equate, I really just don't want to talk about AI, no offense. Have you ever listened to production music? Like, have you sat down and listened to production music? Yes. It's remarkably boring. Like, it's soulless shit. And my apologies to anybody who writes production music. Yes, stock music. It's soulless shit. And it's meant to be wallpaper music, but not ambient music, because ambient music's kind of interesting. It's designed to be, wow, I'm ruffling feathers right now. It's designed to be music that sits behind stuff, and it's not, it promotes joy, uplifting, energized, sad, brokenhearted, asking questions, teenage angst, cooking for the family, whatever. And if you want to see what, that's what AI to me is building, but I don't want to talk about AI because I don't give a fuck. It's maybe I'm reaching this new area of, I wouldn't say enlightenment. What's the absolute polar opposite to enlightenment? That's where I am now. I'm out of fucks to give. And I guess what's really wonderful is that once you start getting into negative fucks, what happens then? I don't know, but I'm finding out with every moment that I breathe. And it seems to be quite liberating. Anyway, yeah, don't be concerned about this stupid, horrible shit. Write your music and make it as passionate as you possibly want. Because the wonderful thing about things, the wonderful thing about, sorry, that, thank you for that. That was nice. Yeah, it's, you just have to, you have to scream. You have to scream like you fucking mean it. And I don't want to, you know, cut out people who write beautiful music or heartfelt music or ambient or anything like that. But I guess in that thing as well, whatever your very passionate outlet is, do it. Because you have nothing to lose anymore. That's a wonderful thing about what's going on in the world, is that everything's lost. But the funny thing about when everything's lost, you suddenly realize that there wasn't really anything there, and all those things were holding you back anyway. So it's that passionate, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. There, Rand, there were hands up before. Oh, Maz is here. There were hands up before. Brett, I thought I saw your, Brett's gone. Bugger. Chris, go. Sorry, Charles, go.
It's okay. My mother used to do that too. Everybody does. It's a term of endearment.
If I call you Frank, don't be offended.
That's good. That
And I
works
go,
good.
Frank! Sorry.
Oh, I do too. Yeah. If you find me climbing on your modular, we got bigger problems than which name you're calling me. You know, I'm 55 and I'm getting into like the most interesting sort of period of my music in terms of like being to able to interact with my peers and kind of getting it out there. And like you said about, you know, the fucks to give thing, man, that is so potent because like part of it is I was nearly killed in a car accident 5 years ago. I won't go into details. The main upswing from that was like, I have to live my life differently because it's just shitty. And I've been, you know, working on that. But for some reason, when you were ranting there, Carl, it reminded me of this poster I have hung up in my office. And it says, as soon as you stop wanting something, you get it. I've found that to be axiomatic. And the quote is from Andy Warhol. And I specifically used the picture of Bowie as Andy Warhol from Basquiat because I thought that was even more germane to it. How does that relate to it here? You know, it's like I've found, you know, we only have 24 hours in the day, all of us. And if we have kids and partners and stuff, you know, the time is divided towards, you know, to them. And the funny thing for me is that in this process of like, basically I've just, you know, I just want to make the last portion of my life interesting, however many years I have left. And in this process, I've found that like things that I've given up on wanting have occurred. And not in some woo way. I think, you know, in some ways it's like, I think it's almost I allowed them to grow simply by not trying to choke them into existence, like, bring them about. And, Carl, you make a very good point. At the end of the day, it really does come down to, like you said, old rock and roll, getting your music out there to people who like it. And then maybe larger, venues and stuff, platforms and stuff will hear it. But, but it's one of the most, I think it's honestly one of the most rewarding times to do it and one of the most challenging times to do it. And like, I started my record label 20 years ago, a little label called CFOM out of Boston, and we put out one slightly well-known compilation called Boston, Not London. I did it right at the dawn of MP3s. I still have fucking scads of boxes of CDs. I will send you 100 CDs. I will send you $100, 100 CDs, and I will pay postage. Anyone now, put your but you have all that stuff left over. I guess what I'm just saying is, it's like you said, you run out of fucks to give, and there's something freeing in that. Like, learning how to do that, maybe not so much, not with being a dick, but just being willing to let go in some way. I'll say this, being willing to let go of certain things has allowed me to progress further, even in, this day and age where streaming platforms want garbage AI music, and the large internet providers want the same thing.
Thank you very much. All right. So let's talk about what you want. And this is a rhetorical conversation. I will, somebody remind me about what I just said. Let's talk about, because I'm going to talk about how your fans are a reflection of you, because we're all in the same pot, really. I will say, I'm doing a whole bunch of woo-woo right now, self-spellcasting, for want of a better term. I mean, Ivan, as soon as I say that, Ivan gets all excited. And it's working. And it's working partly, yes, I believe, because there is a spiritual realm where you pull things down. I wanted to talk about something like that as well. You pull things down out of the spiritual realm and you make them real. And through the hard, tenacious work of thought, battling yourself. That's the fucking demon, is yourself. I don't give a flying fuck about Ram or any of those pricks. I don't fucking care. I will challenge the worst fucking demon in hell to go up against certain people I've met when they're having a bad day. Because holy shit, brah, to go up against me when my fucking computer isn't working. And Brent, if you were here, you would testify that I become a Balrog when my fucking computer, and I try very hard. But my point is that when I go into a really positive, I've got a positive bunch of affirmations on my fridge that I wrote after an Art of Rock thing, and they work. They work because partly, yes, I believe I am pulling things out of the spiritual realm, and I really wanted to talk about the bubbles in which synthesizers exist in the spiritual realm. I really want to have that conversation at some point. But they are also training my brain, the demon, the fucking pit of blackness, to stop being so fucking negative. This is now getting into too much information. I did a fucking self-test the other day because my app said, oh, I'm really glad that you're walking a lot. And my muscles cramp up and I get really grumpy in my brain when I don't drink enough water. Keep drinking that water, Carl. Anyway, and it said, oh, look, here's some questions, random questions. And, do you feel this way? Do you feel that way? Blah, 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 blah. And I answered them all as truthfully as it said. And it basically said, you need to send this stuff to a therapist now. Here's a list of therapists. It said that my anxiety is now is severe anxiety, and my depression is moderately severe. And they said, the app said, you are high risk. This isn't some dumb internet thing. It was my app saying, and I was looking at it going, almost every person I have a real conversation with is going to give the same fucking answers I just gave. So I just thought, I think I need to start being a better friend. Because I do know that I'm a bit of a prick and I only talk about work. So I need to be a better friend. And some of you have my number. And if you have my number and shit hits the fan, text me. Don't call me, text me, because I give a fuck. And I know you do as well. Now, I was talking about something before and I asked you to remind me. Oh, yes, you. It's very easy to sit here and go, God, I hate the AIs. God, I hate the music. Blah, 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 blah. They want us to do this. Da, 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 da. Fuck them. They don't matter. Understand that your market, the human beings, the meat bags, I'm a meat bag right here, who are interested in what you do are very similar to you. There's a terrifying concept. They're very fucking similar to you. And they give a flying fuck about TikTok and bullshit about as much as you do. That's a nice thought. And that these people most likely look at all of the stuff that's going on the internet right now and the algorithm, and they give a fuck about it, probably about as much as you do too. And they will look at all of the bullshit that you're supposed to get so involved in, this shit's so important. And they give a fuck as much as you do, because these people are your fucking tribe. And so don't despair. Know that your market, the people who are going to either stream your music or buy your music or get into your music, or you're going to get into their music, are going to be really similar. Because like if you ever meet that person who you've been listening to their music for 10 years, and if you actually have a conversation with them, it's like, holy shit, we're really similar. And it's like, yes, you are, for a reason. That it's not just you both like black clothes, but it's also you've both gone, that it's bullshit. That it's fucking bullshit. I'm having trouble dealing with this thing over here because I am being told every day that it is important and it is something that I should be fucking getting up my ass about. But it's bullshit, and I know it's bullshit. Ivan, this is where you jump in and save me. Go. My darling, you're muted.
Hey, first things first, fuck you, I will not do what you told me. Will not. Second thing second, Carl, you're surrounded by people that have your back. If you ever think less than that, you're wrong. Or more importantly, if you ever think that you're thinking less than that, that's not you, that's the demon. The demon wants you to believe false things. The truth is, we got your back. Also, we'll be back out in August. We need to hook up. We'll go get Thai food.
Yes.
Absolutely go get Thai food this time. Instead of us cheating and going for dinner. Let's talk about the metaphysical side quick. Okay. You know about the light double slit experiment? You don't know which slit the light's gonna come out of until you observe it. And then the wave collapses. Because now a decision has been made. The universe has made a choice. I would suggest that the universe does not actually make that choice. The observer that makes that choice. They just don't know it most of the time. My big suggestion is become an intentional observer. Observe with intention the direction you want it to go, and it will start to go that direction. It takes a while. It takes some practice. It's not easy. If it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. It's hard as hell, but it is worth making the effort, which just eventually starts to get easier. Because like we as humanity are observing the universe into greater detail every day. It's stuff that we didn't think was possible turns out to be maybe possible, and then becomes possible, and like it just keeps going on and on. So observe with attention. No ifs, ands, or buts. Also, earlier I may have said, make crap, just make something. No. Just don't worry about whether or not you've done poorly. Like don't worry about that. Worry about making. And again, do it with intention though. Always be doing it with intention. Like just throwing junk out there's nothing intentional about that. But if you at least made an effort, you tried, you had an idea, you had an intention, it increases the odds of it not being crap. And more importantly, finding somebody else out there that will connect with it. I've been doing a lot of statistics experiments with my music lately. For the last 3 or 4 months. I've done a fairly good job of releasing something new to SoundCloud, like every Tuesday or Wednesday. And I've noticed, recently that, like I just recently, like last month, broke my all-time monthly record for listens, because I'm like 100x what I was a year ago. That's a big difference. This week I did notice that if you don't release something, those numbers just fall straight through the floor. And it's dealing with the algorithm, sure, but understanding it is one of the keys to controlling it. And once you understand it, controlling it gets really easy. 100x. I mean, okay, for me, I mean that's not saying much. It's the difference between 3 listens a month and 300 listens a month. Which is still a big difference. But yeah, no, I mean, observe with intention. It's not that it's not asking much. Okay, I think I've run out of steam.
Thank you. And that was fine steam. Razi, I want to hear from you.
This is either going to be one thing or 3 things, but if it's one thing, it's Mez, hi. And I don't think I've ever heard you pronounce the way that you say your first name with all the syllables. So maybe either throw that in the chat sometime or say hi on mic, because it's good to see you. Second thing, hi. I wanted to throw my sparkly ray of sunshine on a couple of things, hopefully. And the first one was that from a certain perspective, although things have always been extremely challenging, finding recognition as an artist and gatekeepers have always been in the way, it's a really great time to be a weird artist. It is an amazing time to find audience as somebody who doesn't match with mainstream pop. It's a great time to make stuff that is an expression of your individuality and find people to be interested in it. Not saying you'll make money doing it. That's a different discussion. This is Josephine. Say hi, Josie. People are asking. And because of that, it can be even more depressing when you don't meet some of these things. 2 ways of taking it. But on that front, I also just wanted to point out that, Carl, when you poll your friends, we are in such a deep selection bias pit at the bottom of the curve of typical behaviors and typical experiences in life, that just don't forget that there are a lot of people, there are more people, there are billions of people who don't have some of the same negative affect experiences that we find everybody we know has. It's normalized. Everybody has this challenge. Everybody have not only selection bias because of creativity and certain coping skills that we find kinship with, but also because you forget some of the other stuff. Like you just forget which of your peers have which weird group of weirdses. So it becomes like everybody has these, and you forget some of the details. And if there's anything that I'm working on taking away from that, is there are compensatory skills. There are things that we can do to convince the world that the way that we're doing a thing is okay, and please accommodate. And there's ways that we can join with other people. And again, risking getting a little triggered, find other people with the same 15 complaints about how the world works as you have and how they're succeeding and fitting in with it. And man, hopefully that all comes together into, and then they create art, and then they find an audience, and then maybe they get paid or applause.
I thank you very much. And everybody, you know, I thank you. And we are growing a community here, and it's really important that we tag team when shit hits the fan. It's critical. I've been hitting up a lot of people of late. And I really appreciate what you say, Razi. I just want to throw an idea out there, and it could become a thing. But I want to throw it to Shang first. But so I know that even the definition of what I'm about to say, people may contend, but the concept of magic is to be manipulating the natural forces through your own will. And that's very, you can really read it. And as you guys know, I am very heavily into magic. Also, I have no faith in the universe, and I have learned that there is another parallel universe that is much more powerful, and that's the cat universe. And Josie, is she an American Shorthair? Because fucking Frank is just not a cuddly guy at all.
I convinced her early on that this was the way to behave.
You know, and I'm sort of trying to, because Shay used to sleep on my chest and purr, and it was the most amazing. I'm getting to the universe in a minute. I'm getting Frank to, I'm trying, and I'm holding him now, and he's getting used to it. But I'll tell you something interesting is that Frank has also decided he wants to play the blaster beam. And when his little paws are on the blaster beam, it makes a fascinating sound. Really fascinating, because sometimes he sticks his claws in there. It's like, wow. He kind of like sometimes he mutes it. He's pulled the odd harmonic. Very impressed. Anyway, so here is my question back to magic, is that if we may, through our will, on earth thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven, my will be done. How do we therefore manipulate, for want of a better term, spiritually, the will of the brave new electronic God? This new God that we have created, this new realm that we have created, this new dimension that we have created. How can we affect it with our will? Beyond doing a TikTok dance, because that is stupid. It's a thought that I want to throw out there. Brent, it's great to see you, by the way. I'm going to throw this now to the one, the only Shang, and then we're going to rock from there on.
That's a fascinating question, Carl. I may not even have the answer, but I guess what you were saying again, trying to think, it just made me think about sort of how I've lived my life, and how I perceive the world, which now is very different in the last 5 years than it was in the previous 5 or even 10. And part of that is me getting serious about my mental health, which I didn't for a very, very long time. And right around the time that I started to realize I had to get that in check was when I ran into an old friend who who I'd told at 19 he needed to get a job, go to school so he could support his infant child. Long story short, he didn't, and he ended up becoming, a very successful painter. But in meeting him after, as an adult, I went back and I'm like, what have I been doing? And I realized I'd spent 20 years of my life on a very wrong track, in terms of not pursuing the one thing that's been in the constant in my life, which is music, which has been there for me since I was 14. And I inherited my first synthesizer, and I could press a key and realize, oh, I can make cool sounds from this.
You inherited it.
Yeah, my grandfather died. It was a Yamaha CE25. He died. He was an amazing pianist, and he used to play in silent movie theaters up here in Maine, and really incredible stuff. But I got this one keyboard. But I guess more to the point is, more and more I've been realizing that if you're not taking care of this stupid physical meat sack, that's what it was that made me think of it, then you can't do the stuff. And yeah, when we're young, we all want to party and do our thing and drink and whatever. Razi and I've known each other since we were in college, and I don't know if Razi can talk to this. I know very few people who were making music back then who are either A, still making it, or B, alive. And rock and roll excess or whatever, but I guess what I've been doing feel like I've been doing the last 10 years is really carving away and getting back to who I am authentically. And perhaps it's a little bit woo woo, but really is just finding out my voice as a person, as well as I've been doing through my music. And a lot of that over the last 10 years has been mental health and taking care. That said, in that last 10 years of, eating better, drinking less, and all these, I've had the biggest growth period, not just of the audience of my music, but of myself. I would say more so of myself than my audience, but it's grown as well. This does kind of fold back a little bit into what Ivan was saying, about the observational universe, and what you said too, Carl, about there is another universe. I don't know too much about magic, but I do have I did buy the Golden Bough recently for research for a book. But yeah, but I know there's a force out there and forces out there, and I think, I guess what I can say is, it can all be so overwhelming, and I love that Razi invited me to this, and I've been participating because I think one of the reasons the last week was so great for me is just that I had these great conversations in my head and I carried it with me. Long story short, I think is, if you're taking care of yourself and you're able to get as clear about how you're seeing things and why you're doing things, you will start to see how, what is around you and how the universe is around you, and you will find those other people. I will say this last thing. I had another friend who was a well-known musician, and I kind of hung around them for a long time because I thought I could ride their coattails and get in that way. Yeah. I think after about the third decade or something, I was like, this isn't working. This isn't going to happen. And then I'm like, well, Terhune, my last name, are you doing any footwork of your own? I'm like, no. So once I gave up riding on that person's coattails and really started looking at how I was doing, which is, most people find that out younger, I had a lot more success, but a lot more response and a lot more input, which I think, and I think goes back to that Warhol quote I had, but yet taking care of the body itself is the most important thing. And I say this, as someone who right now is trying to, lose pounds that he gained over the years, and B, I used to teach yoga, and I saw it there. I saw the transformation people can make. But if you're not taking care of this, you're not doing anything. And like one of the biggest things I think in my life, imagine if Ian Curtis, not that he had perfect healthcare, but just better mental health care, what would Joy Division have sounded like? Holy fuck. And when would they have joined with Kraftwerk to become Joywork or Craft Division? I don't know. Back to Carl.
Thank you. It's fascinating how the really interesting ideas exist on the fringe. They're right on the edge. And to get to the edge, you have to take a risk. And a lot of people are going to say, don't go there. Secondly, push-ups. Thank you for what you said, by the way. Push-ups on your knuckles at 5 a.m. in whatever discipline, and you can call push-ups whatever you want to call them. They could be endless scales on your piano at 5 a.m. will ensure your success. Define success however you want. And if you do that from a young age, and it's really curious that it's so true, man. Very few musicians I know who are doing music seriously in their early 20s, teenage years, very few of them are still doing it. And yeah, there's been some casualties. Yes, the body is a lens. I love that. I don't remember who said that, but it wasn't me. Brett, it's so good to see your face. I want to hear your wisdom. Go.
Good day, everyone. So, magic. So that's kind of an interesting topic with me. When I was a kid, I was raised Methodist, and I've said in other Art of Rocks and whatnot, I used to live about 5 or 6 miles from Jim Bakker, and that was during my teenage years. And so being right under that thumb of the Bible Belt was something. It's like, man, I could feel the pulse. And my rebellion to that was, to go to its antithesis until I realized it was basically the same damn thing. And along the way, ended up getting into paganism, magic, even Egyptian religions, and going all the way back. And I kind of realized that they all have the same kind of thing where magic is concerned. Intent. The whole thing rides upon your intent. You don't necessarily have to have you don't have to have a crystal. That's where things, out of the Judeo-Christian Bible and whatnot, having that mustard seed of faith of sorts is a good analogy. If you have kind of an idea and you want to make that idea real, that intent is the magic. And it may not come all at once. But it seems to be pretty universally applicable. If I sit there and I'm like, no, I really want to go to the beach, I'm probably going to go to the beach. I know that's a very basic, but where it comes to writing a song, even, this group, events in our own lives and whatnot, maybe not even my own, but just events surrounding this group and whatnot, have inspired me in other songs. And to say that there's not some part of intent behind that, to express, whatever that was, that's what created the magic. So that's my kind of 2 cents on it. That's kind of my thoughts.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And as I said, the RAM chips came. Woo! Now I just have to put them in, and I'm scared. I see your hand.
They're just Legos.
It's just Legos. I love that. Thank you. Max, I see your hand. In one moment, I just want to shout out to Rob, because Rob was here during the week. It actually sat on the couch where Frank is now, and Rob gave me this crystal, this beautiful amethyst, and I'm trying to paint it. But yeah, Rob's such a wonderful industrial experimental mind, but he's not industrial because, hey, who's industrial? But it's just a wonderful, and he put a whole bunch of recordings up, by the way, from a sound safari. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Brett. Max, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. Hi. Glad to be back. It's been a while. Yeah. So on the note of magic and how to like transform your life magically. I feel like it's very real. It's very like it's very possible. And I feel like I've done a bunch of transformation with my life on the past few years. Like I can't believe I'm sort of doing what I'm doing, and it started with intent a few years ago, and I've followed through on it, and I feel like it can also work to your detriment because like it really is all about like the energy that you foster and bring out, and the intent that you have. And when you are someone that struggles with depression, anxiety, and stuff, it's so easy for it to just be like those negative thoughts will snowball, and that's another way of magic to happen is it can be that negativity that comes out into your life, and the more it dwells, the more it'll like magically fester. So it can be sort of all about just like stopping those thoughts in their tracks, or like preventing them from happening in the first place. If you like doing like get into self-care in the ways that it will prevent you from dwelling too much on that stuff. Easier said than done, of course, but like definitely worth keeping on top of, because in the end though, it is like mostly thoughts and stuff that is possible to keep on top of. And yeah, because if you're able to replace those thoughts with intentions of like aspirations and goals and love and stuff that you want in your life, like that will happen. Yeah, I think that's what I have to say.
Thank you. I appreciate this very much. I want to come back to how to use magic to influence the internet in a second. I did sound at a talk at the LGBTQ Center recently, last week actually, about loneliness and about isolationism, and they were talking about it was one of the speakers was a doctor from England who now works in LA in aged care, and he was saying that in England you can be diagnosed with loneliness. It is a diagnosable thing, and that's good because loneliness, as you probably heard, is the equivalent to smoking 10 to 15 cigarettes a day, and it's obesity, and it destroys your immune system. This is what the English Department of Health and the Californian Department of Health have come to the conclusion of, and many other group things. And Max, what you say is so real, because you have to, you must have a ritual to get over this stuff. It's like going to the gym. It's saying my loneliness muscle is, or the muscles are weak in my being, and the result from that atrophy is loneliness. You have to go to a psychological gym. Actually, this guy was saying, the doctor was saying that if you're diagnosed with loneliness, they will give you a prescription to the gym or to a movie night or a social club, and they're free, so that you get out and you are forced to do this. Because the fucker about loneliness and isolationist thinking is it gets worse and worse and worse. And before you know it, you can't tell friends from foes. You can't read people's facial reactions anymore. It's a spiral. So you have to, you're going to the gym for your emotions. And it's really important because so many people are still dealing with loneliness. Well, that's always been the case, but even more since the pandemic, which we never got over, by the way, I think. And a lot of research coming back from different departments is saying the same thing. Like Australian Department of Health said, blood level is high, obesity is still high, all of these things. Alcoholism is still high. Still. So you got to work on that. But yeah, you've got to take steps to deal with this stuff, because your body is a lens. It's how you focus the fucking magic. The interesting thing about, see, this is the really fascinating thing. Now I'm going on a wank. Oh, yes. The thing about, like, I don't like manipulation. It's the thing about magic I don't like. It's the thing that I'm not comfortable with. I don't like manipulating other people. I'm okay with manipulating other situations that will affect you positively. I don't like manipulating nature. You don't have a right, I think, anyway. That's just me. But ironically, the thing about social media is it is manipulation. It is manipulating the way you think, the way you what you want, what you achieve, what you are working for, what you are using your time for. It's manipulating you. And it's doing it in a fashion that is this kind of very interesting new spiritual thing. Like I'm going on one of my rants again, where I'm trying to use words to explain something. Like, you can't really use words to explain spiritual things. You can't. And it's like trying to use words to explain pain. You can't. I'm now trying to explain something that I think a lot of people are also feeling. There's something else going on here. That when you have a whole bunch of people focusing on something, Jesus Christ, John Lennon said this in Imagine. When you have a whole bunch of people focusing on something, that something becomes real. Well, now we've got a whole bunch of people focusing on dumb shit. That's becoming real. Think of that. Isn't it crazy how the most potent thing humans have is attention? Wasn't that they wanted to do a thing recently where everybody focused on world peace for one day? Now for 7 hours a day, we're focusing on stupid shit. Like, what is that doing? Like, I'm now talking about a human being as being a focal, magical thing that turns the ethos of the universe into reality. What are we pulling into reality? Like, it's crazy when it's not destruction, it's distraction. It's blandness. That the new, I can't, like, these are the hand gestures I make when I'm trying to explain or figure out black holes and stuff. But this is a new kind of black hole. I'm prattling now. Shane, this is where you save me. Go.
Well, Carl, back in 1940, no, that's brilliant, and I love your rants because they really do get me thinking, and I think everybody else kind of feels the same way. You know, two things. You were talking about loneliness. You know, I live in Maine in the U.S. and we have legal weed, and my weed guy came by. It was very nice. We got to talking, and like he said to me, "Hey, you know, do you ever want to hang out with a bunch of other guys? We just get together. We just play board games and stuff. It's no big thing." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "Yeah, I call it the the half feral gentleman's gaming club." And I started laughing. And later, you know, we exchanged numbers. He texted. He's like, "You know, I really appreciate you agreeing because I didn't think you would." And I said, "Well, you know, it's really hard for dudes our age to meet people." And I'm like, if someone cool presents you an opportunity, I've found if you don't go and do the thing that they're presenting, you may end up regretting it. And you know, I'm happy to say it. I've been better for having that contact with people. You know, I like what you said about, you know, it is peddling distraction, and I you know, I think it's that obfuscation, and I think of it. It's a bit like, you know, the lotus eaters that they talk about in I forget it's the, you know, the Odyssey or something. You know, just kind of mindlessly going, you know, sitting there staring into space while this thing is happening around them. You know, and look, I'm very addicted to my phone. I'm shocked, in fact, that it's not on me right now because I usually freak out, but I do have my laptop to my right and, you know, there's the big monitor in front of me. But, you know, I think I like what you said, you know, about getting people focused on as a group on the thing to make change as well. Because even, you know, I'm very agnostic, but I was raised Christian, so there's a certain amount of that, you know, in me. But so one of my favorite things I remember reading was a skeptic, a very hardcore atheist skeptic, was like, he's like, I can't refute the fact that research has shown, like, you know, in studies of people, you know, thinking about a certain outcome of something, that like this kind of stuff works and it's real. And you know, is it magic or is it just us getting together? You know, obviously humans as a group getting together as a group, you know, sort of united in one thing allows you to achieve a great thing. But you know, I think I just think there's energies and things going on that we don't have the technology to record or measure at this point. And you know, we'll find that at some point. But you know, in the meantime, it's this thing of I think just getting clear on what we're seeing and how we're seeing and what's, you know, what's truly out there, and not necessarily in like a conspiratorial, you know, them against us thing, because as much as I think there's very real stuff on that line, I think we can get into self-delusion with that kind of thinking as well. I hope that was germane to what you were saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Firstly, thank you. It's curious how the motivation of the universe is to pull everything into the same temperature. That's what it's trying to do. Suns are pushing energy out. Other things are attracting that energy. Once the universe reaches the same temperature, everything stops because it is the temperature and gravity that are pushing things around. But even when the temperature stops, gravity is going to normalize. So it's in the nature of the universe itself to stop. After a lot of fighting. Yes, you can argue that, but ultimately this is pushing that way. This has got nothing. It's getting pushed on. It's absorbing it, blah, 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 blah. Same temperature, same gravity, stops motion. Further to that, it's interesting that soul-sucking mythical beings have existed since ancient Greece and probably Mesopotamia and well before that. And I wish Hack was on the line because he could talk to us at great depth about that. But what I'm saying is that whatever those mythical beings are, whatever their representation of, whether it's our darkness or something, and I think the worst darkness is our darkness anyway, it is in human nature to want to either take advantage of that, feed on that, or just to zone out. And that is where I lead to G. I just don't fucking know. And I just want to have a quick plug. I'm looking for someone to join Ice Planet 9000. The purpose of Ice Planet 9000 is to open the third eye with synthesizers, which is another rant, which we won't go into right now. So if anybody's in LA and they actually want to join up with me in Los Angeles and explore Ice Planet 9000 with me, reach out. Razzie, I want to hear your voice.
Don't go anywhere, because as your resident staunch rationalist, this one's very brief. But to join in on the magic, if you're asking how I would employ it, intentionally manifest things that make you feel powerful and share them with people who amplify the good in your power.
I overwhelmingly agree with you, and I thank you, and that's hard. It's hard because it's hard not closing people out, and because part of that thing is also learning to open yourself up, and that's something I struggle with, and I know that is a result of all the fuckery in my brain.
It's work.
It's work. There is a rant I want to give at some point, maybe after Ivan, about bubbles of synthesizers. Now, Charles, if it's okay, I'm going to throw this to Ivan first, then I'm going to throw it to you, then I'm going to go on a rant. Put your hand back up so I remember. Ivan, hit me.
Hey, in two worlds, it's called the work. In the magic world, you do workings. You do the work. In the psychological world, when you're healing yourself, when you're getting healed, when you're healing yourself, they call it the work. It's the same thing. And that's why the same word gets used. Also, no matter what, do keep in mind always that the real demons, they're yours. They're in you. And we've got Jung for this. And he calls it the work. It's shadow work. You don't have to fight them. You just have to integrate them. Make them fully actualized and part of who you are. So you can recognize them. And then, have some control. It'll be actual control instead of fighting. So those are my quick thoughts on that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I just want to thank, if I'm distracted, I'm reading the comments that in, I can see Zoom, sorry, not Zoom, of Instagram and YouTube and Twitch. There's some really amazing conversations going on here. I want to thank you guys for joining me on this and letting me walk beside you, letting me lead you, and letting you lead me, and same with all of us together on this, because I know a lot of people feel the same way of these questions and stuff. Thank you, Ivan. I always enjoy it's really lovely when we can talk about magic here, because there's such a wonderful diversity in the spectrum of experience, versus the magic is in my mind and it is processed, versus I am pulling things out, versus all the way through. I really am. It's a lovely thing. Charles, hit me, and then I'm going on a rant.
Okay. I forgot the first thing I was going to say, but I remember the second. What Ivan said about the demons are you. Hell yeah. Ugh. One of my biggest chunks of work I've been doing the last couple of years on my psyche is my rather impressive temper. I'm 6.5 feet tall, 2 meters for those of you who count in those things, almost. But my anger nearly derailed everything in my life, and I'm better with it. And I realized how a lot of my issues were not the anger per se and what was underlying it, although that was a big thing, but learning basically where to channel the energy correctly. And on a simple way, it's been learning how to manage the size of my anger to something. If it's I don't know, someone left the car window open and it rained that night, to something even smaller, but more, I think, to a degree, to what Ivan was saying, about recognizing those things in you and what you're doing. How are you feeding them? I mean, it's not a huge, profound concept, but how are you feeding the demons? And are they actually out there? Are you the problem?
Okay. Yes. Oh, no, that was really good. That was really good. Ivan, I'm going to go after you. I want to hear what you have to think on this, please.
There is a very difficult to obtain, but very good book called The Toxic Magician. In it is pointed out that everybody, every single one of us, whether we like it or not, we have a built-in innate urge to destroy ourselves. That book was trying to suggest that you use that against other people. I'm not that much of a jackass. But I do believe that once you know that you do have that built-in innate urge to destroy yourself, and once you can recognize what it is and when you're doing it, you can redirect that energy to doing something useful. Because it takes a surprising amount of energy to kill yourself. What if you used it to build yourself instead? Destroying is easy. Building, that's the hard part.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I spent a lot of my younger days mostly trying to destroy myself, and quite successfully upon occasion. So, lessons were learned.
Thank you. And my love to your cat. I'm learning, man. I know that cats are really strong in magic. I understand why. Like, cats are, gateway to hell, gateway to heaven. Cats, fucking they're great. As Frank sleeps on the couch and doesn't give you, look at that buddy. Also an American short hair. They have the most beautiful faces. Yeah, and they just don't want to be hugged, but that one's okay with it. Firstly, always remember that there is endless healing energy in the earth. The earth, and I'm not just talking about the trees and everything, I'm talking about the mantle, I'm talking about the big engine, has an amazing ability to take toxin, bad energy, and to convert it into positive healing energy. I'm all about hugging trees. I'm all about it. And you could go into that with science saying, well, trees have a deep root, they are grounded. If you hug a tree and you're open to it, you will feel negative energy just get sucked out of you. Trees are immune to that shit. They just drink it and they leave you with this healing energy. Cats do it too. So do dogs. They just heal. And the one very difficult thing with animals is that you've got to be careful about your energy around an animal because they will absorb dark energy and they will get sick. I learned that the hard way. Somebody posted on Instagram, I thank you, ZFrog4. Not everything needs recording. Sand paintings sometimes disappear without recording, and it's all about the experience. And I really thank you for that. I think that that's a thing about music and meditation that I really wish Kerry was on this rant, have the ability to do, and that is to manifest the universe at real time through music. And it's gone, and it's in the moment, and it's gone. As I mentioned beforehand, I'm watching a lot of Bob Ross right now because Bob Ross is magical. Because he did the fucking work. It's the same thing watching Vangelis. Like, have you ever seen Vangelis go on one of his crazy fucking improvisation things? I figured out what that weird controller thing is, by the way. Like, it was hard fucking work to do the practice, to do the scales, to learn how this knife does this with this painting on a wet canvas, da-da-da-da-da. It's hard work. It's fucking it up. It's moving through it, and then it's bringing the performance. Blows my mind. Okay, I'm going to go on a rant. We've got to kill this pretty quick. We've got to kill it around about now. Just before I do, this might be a rant for another time. One of my Jedi Masters is Steve Jones, known as Agent 13, who is one of the world's greatest synth repair and restoration dudes. Steve Jones is a Jedi Master. Agent 13, Bowie crossed the floor to shake his hand. Because Steve Jones is a Jedi Master. Steve and I were talking once about how synthesizers in above us in the stratosphere somewhere, there are bubbles of thought, there are bubbles of ideas, and synthesizers have their own bubbles. If you've ever played a Minimoog or a Prophet 5 or a Jupiter 8 or a list of these synthesizers. I'm talking the real fucking thing. It is an antenna, because Buchla, Moog, and the cutters, the cutters who build the instruments for the magicians, the Dieter, they're cutters. That's what they call them, cutters, or illuminaires, I think is the French word, but the English call them cutters. The people who actually build the tricks for the magicians, the cutters of the wizards. So Bob Moog, Don Buchla, David Smith, Oberheim, Robert Perlman, the art guy. These people are cutters. And they created electromagnetic, they're fucking Tesla bitches, electromagnetic antennas to reach into the place of thought where the ancient Egyptians were talking about fucking pyramids. And if you think I'm full of shit right now, you've never played a Jupiter 8, or you've never played a memory Moog, or you've never played a mini Moog. You play these instruments and you are allowing yourself access to the higher realm. And there are bubbles in the ionosphere, the stratosphere somewhere, that Bernie Worwell, the greats who played the mini Moog, they stored their thought there, because the thought went into the Moog translated, sent it up. And I'm telling you, man, there's something fucking magical about these things. And I'm sure it exists in other things too, like painting or architecture, all of these things. I'm just not wired into that shit. Be wired into that. You don't need a Moog to access it. You can access it. Be wired to, oh my God, for sure, Ray Kurzweil. Be open to accessing these things. Secondly, I would like to share a personal win. The game Fortnite has just released a side thing called Wasteland. Apparently, there is a little van in it with speakers on it that you can shoot or hijack, and it's playing a whole bunch of tracks. KMFDM's remix of Kill Kitty is one of those tracks. So thank you, Sasha, for a fucking killer remix. It's in Fortnite. I don't know how long. I think it's only like a short-term thing, but I'm so honored. And there's something else. Oh my God, yeah, Jodorowsky, absolutely. Thank you, Diana. What we're going to do is we're going to raid. And I want to thank you guys for being a part of this. I want to thank you for contributing to this amazing bonfire that has kept us warm, given us light, and warmed our souls. And we have made excellent marshmallows. This is Art of Rock. We're here every Saturday. And on the times I can't make it again, I thank you, Rezi, for taking it over. Watch us on Twitch or wherever. If I'm never here, we don't stream it. I'm sorry about that. And if you're on the Patreon, which is here, the link to the Zoom is on the Patreon, and everybody in the Patreon's welcome to do it. And so please join us, because this is keeping us going. It really is. It's changing the way I write music. New Angelspit Ice Planet 9000 album is there. Go listen to it. Industrial Incisions. I'm inspired now to do Bandcamp releases, listening parties based on today, and I thank you. Industrial Incisions playlist is there. Go listen to that. They're great bands, and if you like those bands, remember to like them. And if you listen, if everybody just listened to one of the bands on Industrial Incisions once a week, that will convert to money for those bands. It might only be a few cents, but it's also helping them grow. It's helping them get out there, because somehow we are going to fucking change this goddamn digital god that's got us fucked. Right now, we're going to raid on over to MTV TV. So, Diane, if you could start that raid, thank you. I thank you again. We'll see you here this time next week. We're going to stay back and chat. It's great. And I just thank you again. I love you. And let me know when that's rated. And if you're watching on something else, like Instagram or whatever, please, and I'll put this in the Instagram, because we're rating over there now, Instagram, to MTV TV. If you're watching on YouTube, we're going over to MTV TV. Thanks for joining us. And why is my hand still up? Diana, let me know when we're rated. We've rated. Okay, cool. That's it. We're done. You rock. Bless you and good night.